So you guys want to trade Fletcher Cox. Let's talk about it.
You want Philly Philly?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast. So today I want to talk about all these rumors surrounding Fletcher Cox. A lot of people are saying they want to see Fletcher Cox traded, possibly get a top pick, or whatever you think may happen when we trade Fletcher Cox. I'm going to give you my opinion on it and why I just outright don't think that it's even a smart idea or even a valid idea, to be honest. But before we get into that, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. We are on the road to 4K. We would love for you guys to join that ride. But let's hop right into it, man. So Fletcher Cox, if you are an Eagles fan, you know who Fletcher Cox is. If you are not an Eagles fan, you still probably know who Fletcher Cox is. Fletcher Cox, for about a decade, was one of, if not, he was probably like 1A, 1B right there with Aaron Donald, excuse me. So, you know, he's been a top tier defensive interior lineman for his whole career. And I think that last year he had a little bit of an off year, especially in the beginning of the season, right? There was a little bit of an issue with him buying into Jonathan Gannon's system, or Jonathan Gannon, you know, getting him in the correct spots to be successful. And then you kind of saw towards the tail end of the season him kind of coming around to the Fletcher Cox that we knew, being disruptive in that middle. So I love Fletcher Cox, and I think that play-wise, I'm still down to stick it out with him. I don't think that he fell off of a cliff. I think that this year will probably be better. You know, you see the maturation of this defensive line. Last year, it was not what we're used to as a total, as a whole. Tracy Rocker coming in didn't really do what I hoped for. I hoped that the defensive line would just stay where it was. We didn't really have to get much better. We just kind of had to stay where we were and kind of get younger, and we just didn't do that. You know, as a total, the defensive line, excuse me, just kind of fell off. It wasn't what we expected, wasn't what we wanted, and you saw the effects that it had on the entire defense. But to keep it on Fletcher Cox, I understand that we have, you know, Javon Hargrave. That's really about it. I mean, you know, I like Milton Williams. I like Brandon Graham. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, but I mean, Javon Hargrave is great. But what else do you have? What else do you have? Are you really necessarily willing to hope that you can get somebody in the draft, maybe a Jordan Davis or a Travis Jones, or two names, or maybe a DeMarvin Leal, right? Or you know, there's a couple interior. Wyatt, I forget his first name. I think it's like DeMarvin Wyatt. Either way, there's a couple defensive tackles in this draft that possibly make sense as a replacement. But you have to look at the whole picture when it comes to Fletcher Cox, right? If you're looking to trade, let's just play devil's advocate. If I was in your guys, you know, a situation where I wanted to trade Fletcher Cox, I would have to look at his cap hit. I would have to look at his contract. I would have to look at his production, and I would have to look at the value he brings to us compared to the value that he will bring to us in a trade, right? So if you look at his contract, he's obviously got a very, very large contract. If we were to just cut him outright, or if we were to trade him pre-June 1st, we're looking at about $25 million in dead cap space. Now, if you give me a first-round pick in the first, you know, top 20 or something like that, maybe I can eat $25 million, but what team is going to do that? Because you still have to pay Fletcher Cox throughout his contract. He still has some years on his contract. Now, if you are to cut him post-June, if you are to trade him post-June, obviously you would not be getting a pick this draft, right? But let's continue to play devil's advocate. So if we were to cut him post-June or trade him post-June, you're looking at a $3 million savings. $3 million. You're looking at a $3 million savings. Is that really worth it to you? I just don't think so. I just don't think that giving up Fletcher Cox makes any sense right now. And I understand that he came off of a tough season, probably one of his worst, if we're being 100% honest, and people are starting to look at Father Time, and Father Time is undefeated, and, you know, oh, what's going on with Fletcher? Do we have to worry? I don't think so. I think that it was a down year for our whole defensive line, if I'm being 100% honest. I think it was a down year for our whole defense. You had a new coaching staff, you had new players. Fletcher Cox was just not utilized the correct way early on in that year. And like I said earlier on in this video, you saw the difference from the beginning of the year towards the end. So I'm not afraid that Fletcher Cox is losing it. I'm not afraid that Fletcher Cox is stealing money. I think that all of that is nonsense. I think that it's ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody wants to give us a top 20 pick, somebody wants to give us a first round pick next year, maybe I'm singing a different tune. Maybe after this draft, we do go ahead and get a Jordan Davis. We do go ahead get a DeMarvin Leo. Any of these defensive linemen, any of these guys that we think can be a starter. Maybe we go do that. Travis Jones. There's a bunch of names, right? Maybe we do that, and then after the draft, somebody says to us, listen, we'll give you our first round pick next year. Give us Fletcher Cox. And maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's something that makes sense, but right now it just doesn't. And I feel like Fletcher Cox is a player that you're going to add to a championship team. I don't think that Fletcher Cox is a player that the Jaguars are going to want. I don't think that the Houston Texans are going to give us a first-round pick for him. I don't think the Jets will. I don't think a rebuilding team, in essence, would give up that high of a pick for Fletcher Cox. And I love Fletcher Cox, but he's not getting any younger. Teams that want to rebuild, teams with high draft picks, are guys that are going to be looking for players to grow with them. And Fletcher Cox is another piece to add to a championship roster. So keep that in mind when you're talking about trading, Fletcher Cox. The teams that are going to be looking for him are going to be picking towards the end of the round. Now, if you're cool with a 20 to 32 draft pick for a $2 million savings next year, then okay, that's what it is. But I think that this whole story is getting overblown, if I'm being 100% honest. I love Fletcher Cox, and maybe that's kind of clouding my judgment as far as it goes. But, maybe talk to him about a restructure, maybe extend him, maybe move some of that money back. Time is endless, right? Time never stops. Time never ends. The seasons never end. There's always next year. So you can always move money back if we want to save some money this year. And we're not strapped financially right now. Financially, could we save some more money? Obviously, it would be nice to have a little bit more money. But we're not strapped. We can go out there and make some moves. So I think that we need to calm down with this Fletcher Cox talk. Hopefully, Fletcher Cox, you're watching this and you know that I had your back. You know what I'm saying? So when you do go out there for the Eagles and put up them 10 sacks that we're all waiting for, I can say I told you so. But I've just been hearing this so much. I've been hearing so many crazy comparisons, so many crazy narratives surrounding Fletcher Cox. I think it's a joke. I think it's really, honestly, I think it's kind of sad that there's a sector of Eagles fans that will take 1 year and say that man is stealing money. I don't want to be rude. I love all you guys. You guys are my family. But if you realistically can sit here and tell me that you think Fletcher Cox has stolen money from us in any type of way, you have not watched Eagles football for the past decade. Because Fletcher Cox has been the heart and soul of that defense for the past decade. So I don't care what you're telling me. I would love to hear what you're thinking in the comments. I mean, especially if you're on the side of getting rid of Fletcher Cox. What is your mindset behind that? Is the $2 million, $3 million, I think it's between there, is that really just standing out to you a lot? Who are you going to go out there and get for $2 or $3 million? Is it the draft pick? Do you think we need more draft picks? I just don't see the logic right now. I think it's just you're upset with Fletcher Cox, and so you want to make some crazy storyline. It's not happening. I just don't see Fletcher Cox going anywhere. And if he does, I'm going to be royally pissed, if I'm being 100% honest. I'm going to be very, very upset because it just does not make sense. Money-wise, financially, it just doesn't make sense. Draft-wise, we have draft capital. What is a 20 to 32 pick next year going to do for us? If you really want to pick next year, go ahead and trade one of your first round picks this year. You'll probably get a better pick anyways, right? Because that's going to be a team that's moving up to try and rebuild their team or try and solidify their team. So it's not necessarily, the Bengals aren't going to move up to number 15, 16, or 19 to try and get a guy. Maybe they do, but I doubt it. So that's my thought on it. I have no intention or idea or whatever you want to say. There's no bone in my body that says Fletcher Cox is stealing money from us, that Fletcher Cox needs to go. I think that that's all crazy talk. But like I said, please let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Do you want to see Fletcher Cox gone? Do you want to see Fletcher Cox traded? What would you trade him for? Who would you trade him to? And why would you trade him? Who, what, when, where, and how? I need all the 5 W's and the H, man. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. But other than that, that was my rant for today. Love y'all. Y'all know what it is, man. It is Fly Eagles Fly, and we are out here. Peace.
Everywhere. This is for you.
Yeah. Fly Eagles fly on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a Bird Gang Nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling with Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man saw Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randall. Season here, early time to do 'em in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.